subject and you would be doing it, it wouldn't make a lot of sense if you're missing out in the first couple of minutes. It's very, very important. Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name is Shraddha Ghosh, and I'm going to be your instructor for your regulation batch completely. We have a target of around 30 sessions. One second, I will have to. Okay, one second. I think. Yes, 1 minute, guys. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a target of around 30 sessions beginning tomorrow. And we are going to have a sessions on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, 7 to 9 a.m. Okay. Try not to be late. The schedule has already been uploaded. I will take you through the most important stuff today. So anybody of you who have any questions on the methodology, the strategy, how you should be studying, where should you be studying, how is Pixalearn going to fit into your study schedule, this is the right time. Okay, so let's I'll give you an idea of what we are going to do today. Now, this may not be relevant for a lot of you who have just enrolled for the session, but I think it's very important for you guys to understand what changed in regulation. And why is it important? Because the shift will also give you an idea of where is it that AICP is going ahead with the regulation paper. And obviously, there would be some reference to it in your examination, because they'll try to give some of the topics that may be out of your syllabus just to ensure that you are aware of the change syllabus or not. So I think it's a great start to understand what changed and what has been the shift. Because if you understand the shift, I think it's really going to help you set your strategies well. So first, we're going to start with the plain vanilla comparison of what was earlier the case and what is now the situation for you guys to sit for your paper. We're going to have a detailed comparison of content, and you will see that in regulation, there has been a deliberate shift from practical to a bit more theory. Now, most of the areas that are going to be tested is indicated. That means even though they'll tell you that an app, so AICPA releases every year, AICPA releases some of the, kind of expected schedule, like what would be the percentage allocation for every material. But as trainers, we always say that you should be mentally prepared that you're going to appear and you're going to be preparing yourself 100%, because in this paper, coverage is as important as any other thing. We cannot leave anything. But I'll still take you through the content comparison. There has been a very important shift in the kind of questions that are going to be asked. So they've released a new category of question that has never been tested before in regulation. Most of the content providers have already included that. So whatever content you're using now, if it's relevant post 2024, it is already updated with the revised set of questions. So I would not say that there has been a lot of change. Some of the topics which were earlier, I would say, are a little bit irksome, because those were topics that were not done very nicely. These were topics that, we had just pick and choose kind of a concept, like, AMT for individuals, alternate minimum tax. We never did it in great length. We always did it at a very, very macro view, to the extent that it more or less came to a stage when we were mugging up things rather than understanding, because the entire gamut was outside the purview of the syllabus. So thankfully, they've done away with it. As far as subject content is concerned, I feel that the syllabus that you have now is much better than what you were having earlier. But here, I want you to be very careful about one category. So people who have had a working knowledge in taxation are definitely going to have an edge post 2024 once you sit for the paper. And we'll see how that would work. So they've tried to make the kind of questions a little bit more practical. And our emphasis in all the examination and all the sessions are going to be for those particular areas, cover the new set of questions. So content has not changed much, but the style of questioning has changed. So we are going to talk about this here. Then I'm going to talk about, okay, these now. So first one was the content, the exam, the content. Here I'm going to talk about three most important things that that I feel should be followed by most of the students in case if they want to crack the papers. In 3 months time. So we're starting in February tentatively, February, March. 10th April is a target completion date. Even if I take an extra leeway of 1 or 2 more sessions, definitely by mid of April, we should be able to get over with our syllabus. End of April, first week of May is the maximum time that I'm expecting most to be sitting for your papers. So according to me, 2.5 months, 3 months is not a big time unless and until you're really cautious of what you're doing and you're very the time management. It's not something which is doable very well if you're not planning and if you're not strategizing properly. So that's why I think that strategy plays a very important part in establishing success versus failure. So we're going to talk about three most important things, and this is what we are going to give you an aim of 3 weeks to reach your zone of complete preparation. Okay, so we are going to discuss strategies then. Okay, so the next 2 sessions, I'm going to talk about your preparation strategy. You guys are free to ask me any question that you want, because I think these are the topics that is the deliverable for today's lecture. Okay? And in the end, for those of you who have enrolled for UWorld, I'll take you to the UWorld interface. For the others, I will take you to the LMS interface and how you should be using it. And towards the end, those of you who have not subscribed to UWorld, you may log off and we can continue with the guys who are still there so that I can tell them how to navigate through UWorld and Pixalearn together. Okay. A couple of rules for the sessions. The first thing is, guys, if you have a query, please write in the chat panel rather than unmuting yourself immediately, because I can plan your queries and I can ask you. So at any point of time, if you want to speak, I would unmute you, but just let me decide when to unmute and when is the best time to take your question. So throughout the session, whenever you have a query, please feel free to use the chat panel and let me know what questions you have. Okay.
मैम एक सेकंड, जहाँ मीटिंग चैट लिखा है ना वहाँ पे
Yeah,
मैसेज
so
करना
you have
पड़ेगा.
chat
ओके.
panel. Yeah, you just write your query during the session, whatever query you have. Okay, whether if I feel that that's the right time to take the query, I'll unmute you immediately. Otherwise, we'll just wait for what we are finishing and then I will. Okay. Okay. The first thing is the exam structure. So there is one thing that I have uploaded on your LMS today. Okay, so those of you who haven't been through the LMS, I'll just show you where it is uploaded. I have uploaded, okay, one second. Yeah. Yeah. So I have uploaded the AI CPA, the entire blueprint. And I don't know whether I have made it downloadable or not. If you guys want it, I wouldn't mind making it downloadable also. So this is the blueprint. That's the one which is effective from 1st of January 2024. I have annotated it a bit. I'll show you what is the relevance of this. Okay, but this becomes our guiding force. Okay, this lets us know this is what we have to do, and this is what AI CPA has communicated to us as CPA. People who've taken the CPA exam in the new curriculum regarding the course. So if you look at that, a couple of things. This was what was in the old syllabus, right? So if you look at it, Reg had the MCQ and the task-based bifurcation of 50-50, which still remains the same. So the best part is our aim should be that we should cover theory really well, which is 50%. On the balance 50%, which is practical, there are certain areas which are more heavily tested as far as remembering and understanding skills are concerned. So if you look at 1040, which is a form number, you will see that if you memorize things properly, you understand it once. The challenge is to keep it revising. But once you go through, let's say, corporate taxation or let's say S corp taxation, those are more concept driven. Now, one thing is when I'm going through corporate taxation or let's say S corp or partnership, I do tend to use a bit of journal entries and I do try to connect the accounting and the taxation angle. So I think that's a very good idea, because if you can see because see, we have a very good visual of the balance sheet and the P&L. If you can connect that to regulation, that really solves a lot of work for us. Okay, so part one that we're going to start with over the next couple of weeks That part is more or less data driven. We just need to understand the stipulations, commit it to memory, and then we are sorted. The next part of practical is more concept driven. And there, my suggestion is try not to mug up. If you understand the base really well, if you understand the key dots, how it's all related, that will make it really simple. But as far as cracking the paper is concerned, okay, historically, regulation is a paper that fetches you maximum marks. The reason, a wide variety of a large section of the paper is heavily driven on the basis of remembering and understanding. Okay, so manage your theory really well. For the practical, we'll see to it that things that needs constant revision, you're doing it on an ongoing basis. That's the reason we are first starting with practical, then we're going to go through theory. For those of you who have taken this paper before, if you want to expedite the process, if you're willing to write the papers before, let's say the third week of April or the second week of April, my suggestion is you can start with theory. We are going to do it in the fag end. Okay, because my methodology of teaching is we'll first deal with the things that needs constant revision. We'll deal with concepts really well, and towards the fag end, we can do theory because that's the time where we can really we can increase our effort and we can expedite the progress. Okay, you can't do that in the practical part because that needs practice. Okay, so 50% theory, 50% practical. Okay, if you look at the skill levels, so AICPA has told us 4 skill levels. Evaluation is the highest level, which is tested only in audit. In no other paper do we test for the evaluation skills. Okay, so the best part about regulation is it is heavily laden towards the bottom 2 skills. That's the reason why the passing scores in regulation can be really good. I mean, I have seen a lot of people cracking above 90. 90 to 95 is very common in regulation, and your aim should be 90 to 100. That should be the aim because it's achievable. Okay, so if you look at what the old syllabus was, so this was the old syllabus, right? You'll see that even in the new one, there hasn't been much change in the skill level requirements. And if you see it really well, nearly 80% of the paper on the maximum side and nearly 60, so 60 to 80% of the paper is heavily driven only on the base level skills. That means if you prepare the course really well, if you understand things that needs to be understood, and if you're able to revise properly, that should really help you through your regulation paper. It's a simple paper to crack. The most important thing here, if you get your strategy correct, if you put yourself into a routine of regular studies and revising things, I'm pretty sure that cracking a regulation paper with above 90 score is okay. Okay, so if you look at the syllabus, one major shift is, if you look at it, some part of theory is being tested a little bit more than practical. Okay, so if I look at it really well, there has been a conscious 5% shift from practical to theory. Now, this is an indicative list, but if you look closely, now see the first 2 areas here, which is ethics and business law, this is theory. And the last three. So we'll first start with individuals, then we'll do entities. So individuals typically mean people like you and me. When we file our returns in the US, we would be filing a particular form. Now, in the US, you have every taxation, just like in India, we have ITR1, ITR2, and stuff. In the US, we identify the forms by their numbers. So, we are going to refer to the numbers. We have also uploaded the entire IRS forms. I'll show you where it is, and I have made it downloadable. My suggestion is please take a copy of that. Every time we cover a particular area, you should be knowing exactly where in the form we have covered that. And the best part about the regulation paper is that every kind of information that you want is in the public domain. IRS itself gives you a lot of instruction. And the way you should be dealing with this practical portion is you should be equipped enough. So that's my aim as a faculty, that I want you to be in a stage where after this most important concept should be driven home. Even though I don't think that CPA syllabus covers all the forms in utmost details, but at least it gives you a macro view of most of the forms. And if you know where to look at the data once you are working, I think it's very easy to understand how you want to train yourself after that. So we're just going to introduce you to concepts. We are going to make the fundamentals strong. And after that, once you start working, there's a lot of data available in public domain. I think you should be able to reach that stage that you should figure out your way on your own. That's the idea, right? But theoretically, if I look at the syllabus per se, they have kind of shifted 5% shift from practical to theory. Okay, so our aim should be understand that yes, practical is important, but theory is something that you cannot neglect for the simple reason it's simple theory. uh, Contract. So if you look at business law, there are certain new laws. I don't know how many of you've, I want you guys to raise your hand, guys. How many of you've read insolvency or secure transaction, something like that formally? In India, bankruptcy laws, we typically refer to them as insolvency laws. But anybody here who has read them from, because these were not a part of a regular studies. Most of us. Anybody who has read it, just raise your hand or right? No. So that's the challenge. There are some easy parts. So you will have things like Contract Act and Sale of Goods Act, and then you have agency, these are the easy stuff. But then you have secure transactions, debtor creditor relationship. Then you have concepts like if somebody wants to declare bankruptcy, then what are the proceedings? These are a little technical. I would not say very interesting, but for you it should be very scoring. So our aim should be, this is like really easy. The first 15% of the marks here is like really simple. For those of you who've done audit with me before, we have covered a bit of it here. This part I think is very interesting. It's not very difficult to crack because it's interesting. This part again, this is easy part. But remember, guys, in India, what we have done in Contract Act and Sale of Goods and Agency, there is a similarity, but there are some stark differences. And some of the interesting differences are really good. They're so good because that tells us the difference between the thinking processes of the two societies. Okay, the reason why I'm telling you this is in case if you've not read it and registered it, our impulse will be to choose a wrong answer. Why? Because we'll be following the Indian law. So it's very important that when you're doing things like contract and sale of goods, if you've had an exposure to Indian Contract Act and Indian Sale of Goods Act, agency is more or less similar, but these two, it's very important to register in your mind specifically where is it different from the Indian laws and Indian acts. Otherwise, we tend to get tuned and we try to choose an answer based on the Indian law. So that's something that I want you to be aware of at this age. One more thing here that will be tested is forms of business. This is easy. Typically, this is theory, but this is simple, really simple theory. Okay. So these are simple stuff. There are two topics here, which are a little technical, and the challenge is that none of us have done it before, probably. It's typically debtor creditor relationship and insolvency. So for those, the challenge is to, you have a lot of data, right? What is it that you have to register in your mind and how to crack the questions? That's what we're going to concentrate in this area. But the way I'm going to look at it, I'm going to first take all the practical, and we are starting with individual taxation because I feel that it needs a lot of revision. And I would suggest that what we are going to do over the next 5-10 sessions, you need to get into a mode of revising it regularly, because if you can do that, see, when you're doing areas 3, 4, and 5 that we're going to do initially, when you're going to do these three areas, this is cumulative learning, guys. If you do not understand how do you tax the C Corps, I cannot layer it up and teach you how to do it for partnership. And once, so ideally, what we'll do is we'll first see how a C Corp is taxed. Then we'll find out, okay, what is the delta between C Corps and partnerships? And then we'll see what is the delta between partnership and smaller corporation, which are more colloquially referred to as private limited companies in India. So it's an incremental learning. At the same time, when you're looking at individuals, there are some concepts like exchange, boot. Then, the basic essence, a lot of it is carried forward when you're doing entity taxation. So that's very important, that when you're doing the practical areas, you should be able to master the first concept before we layer it up to the next concept. Because if you're not doing it and following it at your level, chances are that your foundation gets weak, and then even if you layer it up later, it becomes difficult. So these three areas we are going to concentrate a lot. The first sessions I'm going to take a little slowly you start understanding the psychology of the society. In general, what are the things that the US economy emphasizes on? Some of the things are very different from what we have in India. Once we understand that, once we do the full practical part, theory is something which is easy. Even if you want, you can rush through in theory because there's a lot of data available. Practical, we're going to take it slow. And my expectation is that once we finish a particular area in the classes, I would want you to follow it up at your end and complete all the MCQs in that relevant area. Okay? Okay. This might not make a lot of sense today because a lot of these topics you would have not done. But there are a couple of, so this, I just wanted to star it for those of you who have taken regulation earlier. I'm pretty sure that you will be able to understand this. Now, see, there has not been many. So, this first area is very simple. This is like a historical area. The MCQs are the best way to do this area because we've been doing it times and again. Business law is easy. So there's something called other laws. Okay. So apart from the securities law, and then you have the bankruptcy, contract, sale of goods, there is something called miscellaneous laws. They have kind of exceeded, or they've tried to extend the horizon of that. Okay. Um, I don't think Becker has done a very good job at it. Now, I don't know how much of it is relevant, but if you look at it, this is an area where we need to dig a little deep because this is kind of an open area. And if they give you a question on this, and if you've never gone through those relevant areas, then chances are you would not be able to answer the questions. So, in business law, I don't see much change except the fact that they have widened the horizon of the laws. If you look at individual taxation, there was an area called AMT. So in the US, they had already abolished the AMT, the alternate minimum tax on the corporates, but for individuals, it was still there. And the full scope was outside the purview of CPA syllabus. Thankfully, they have done away with it. Okay, which is good because even earlier they were doing it so, in such a strange manner that it was a very uninteresting area to talk about. Okay, because we were not covering things end to end. So this is a big thing that has happened in individual. Now, this I'm going to show you from the AI CPA book itself, right? So, what I've done is in this year or from 2024 onwards, they are going to give you questions on tax preparation. So, it's like they'll give you the base data. They'll give you, so think of it something like this. If some of you've taken the audit paper, what they do in audit, they give you actual working papers, right? So, let's say I'm going to ask you a question on inventory. So, how would I test you in audit? I will actually give you let's say the inventory sheet. Then I'll give you the data dump from the inventory, from the inventory base where the physical documents are kept. And then probably I'll give you some extract of the financial accounts. And then I'll try to show you that there are some discrepancies. Okay, so what we do is we're looking at real data. And on the basis of real data, I'm trying to ask you questions. Now, this year onwards, they have tried to do that with regulation also. They have emphasized a little bit on real data. They've emphasized, so see, the core concepts don't change. If I ask you that, is your interest that you're earning on, let's say, deposits, is that interest taxable? The answer is yes, it's taxable. I will take it to Schedule C, which was already there earlier. But now the way that they're going to answer your question, you in the exam, is going to be a little different. Okay? Also, it's not just how you're going to submit the so visualize it like this, that if you were a person who actually involved in making your tax returns for the client, what is the actual data that you see? And once, let's say, you have submitted that data to the IRS, if the IRS comes up with some kind of an examination or some kind of a comment, how are you going to reciprocate to that comment? Taking that knowledge base with you. Like, let's say I'm testing gross income for individual. So the first set of questions will be real things. Okay, they'll give you the real accounts, they'll give you the real stuff, and then they'll ask you, okay, how are you going to fill in the particular form? And then probably they'll tell you, okay, IRS comes up with this thing. This was what was discovered. What is your take on it? So typically, they are going away from theoretical concept of asking you a question, and they're going to make it a little more practical. Now, the challenge is for those of you who are like, I think Carsten here is into this a big time. So for you, I think for the others who've never had a practical experience in filling up a form, see, the best part is understand that it's law. And if it's a law, it cannot be very difficult. Okay. Love the concepts, then you just need to know. It's like saying, I don't know Tally, I'll learn SAP. It's okay. We'll just see the interface will be different. So what you're going to emphasize on is the base concept. If your concept is clear, then you just need to know where is that data going to be paid. So you do it once, you do it twice, it becomes a part of your system. Should not be very difficult. Okay. So the concepts remain the same. The way of testing them changes. And I'll show you in the AI CPA guidelines that most of the higher level skills. Okay. So if I look at the skill base here, a little high. So there is a particular way where you can understand that these areas would be more tested on the sim. So the reviews and the tax preparation, they have a higher level skill which is going to be tested. So chances are that you may expect sims in this area. Okay. Now a couple of things have changed. I think to because it's a good change. Earlier, like formation, liquidation of corps and partnership is a really complicated concept, and it's difficult. I still remember we used to spend a full class dealing with formation. And when I looked at liquidation of partnership, especially if I want to tell you what is non-liquidating dividend and liquidating dividend and how is it taxable, it was pretty confusing. So good part is they've done away with it. So both for partnership and for corporation, we are not going to have detailed calculative questions on both the formation and the liquidation. So they're essentially going to test you on the taxability. Assuming a corporation is a running corporation, how are you going to tax their accounts? So how are you going to derive their taxable income from the accounting income? And then probably what can be the issues, so all of those. But the starting phase and the ending phase has been done away with. So that's a good thing, okay, because this was a very complicated stuff. And if you look at the relevance, probably not that much, right? Once you start working, you'll see that one in 100 cases would be like that. But ongoing corporation and partnership is something which was more relevant. Okay, the best part. These are the big pluses, right? That has happened in the new syllabus. They've done away with estate and trusts. Okay, so earlier we used to teach you estate taxation, trust taxation, and there was something called unified, the gift transaction tax. All of that has been done away with. Even tax exempt corporate. So earlier used to have something called tax exempt organizations. Yeah, I know. I know. See, I don't mind the concept, Carsten, of both estate and trust, but the problem is that we were not dealing with it like 100%. These were areas where we touching and going, and we used to, and it was not something that we are connecting it to the logical chord. No, we would just pick up certain areas, we'll discuss it, and then we will leave it. So most of the times we were just helping the students mug up certain areas. So it's a good thing. AMT is gone, estate is gone, trust is gone. Even in tax exempt organizations, earlier they used to test something called unrelated business income. We used to call them UBI income. That's also gone. Okay, so now just small part, which is theory. So see, understand what is the reason or the rationale behind it. More they're focusing you more on just the fundamental skills. And what they've done is they have put all of these complicated stuff in the TCP syllabus. Okay, because their idea is only if you're going ahead with tax practice, probably you would want to go that deep. Otherwise, at the base level, maybe you are going into accounting, or probably you're interested into forensics or IT or anything. In that case, just the base level understanding of tax should be good enough. Okay, so remember your fundamentals should be really strong. If your fundamentals are strong, if you're able to make out the sense of where the data is flowing from which method and how is it getting linked, I think that's enough. Okay, so the best part is formation gone, liquidation gone, estate trust gone. I don't think the gift taxation is that much detailed now. Tax exempt organizations gone. Only a small part of theory is there. The calculation part, all of that is gone. This is like a huge relief, okay, because we used to spend a lot of time explaining students about the partnership, what is the at risk basis, then the passive loss rules. So all of that tax basis, this was a complicated concept because it was very difficult to help the students visualize this. They have done away with that now. So the best part is, now what you have is a very interesting part of taxation. It's a very, very interesting part now. We are looking at key concepts, and if you're able to weave stories around it, I have tried to incorporate some of them. I try to share some of the podcasts, some very good, important, very good podcasts. Especially if you're in India and the society is different. Many of the laws really doesn't make much difference because this is not ours. It's not easy to think, why these particular laws came into being. For instance, there's a very strange topic called exchange of like kind business assets. And if you know the history behind it, you'll be amazed to know that it actually started in the agricultural sector where the farmers used to exchange cows. So this concept started with the exchange of cows, and then it now no longer relates to cows at all. Now it has taken a different zone altogether. Okay, so sounds nice. If it's possible, we'll try to, and if it's within the purview of a session, if I'm not able to cover it fully, I'll give you some of the links to the podcast. Those are very good podcasts, hilarious podcasts, some of them. And it's good if you can develop basic overall sense of why these provisions came into being, what was the rationale behind it. I think you'll be able to appreciate it better. Okay, so this my suggestion is just start this, and tomorrow or any time, when you have time, every time you're looking at a particular area, this is not a bad slide to go to, because it will help you understand what's the data shift, and it will also help you understand what to focus and what not to focus on. Okay. So as far as you are concerned as students, my suggestion is they've made the paper more interesting and they've done away with some uninteresting areas in taxation. Okay. Okay, three things. Okay, as far as syllabus is concerned, does anybody have any question? You can ask me now. Anybody
I
has any question? Yeah,
I just
sorry.
have one question, Shraddha. So
Yeah.
since as you mentioned that business law, it's not fully, taught in Becker, how would I prepare for it from your slides?
No, 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 not business law. No, you got me wrong. There is a small area called the laws where you have,
Okay.
those employment taxes, your employment laws. So it's a very small 2 or 3 sheet in Becker.
Okay.
Maybe, so see, what I'm trying to tell you is maybe what Becker has given you is enough, but if you look at what others have given you, that's a little bit more than what Becker has given, because this is a new time and they have incorporated these new things. So, yes, for those areas where I feel that we can do a little bit more without causing a lot of harm, we'll do that. I'll give it to you in the class. Okay, Jasmine?
Sounds Yeah,
So
thank
see,
you.
some of the areas, see, I have a tendency to put you a little more than what your content provider is giving you. And if it's not very harmful and if it helps you understand the concept, I would include it in the sessions, and it's up to you whether you want to do it or not. Okay. But I will give it to take you a little more than what your content provider is giving you, because I want you to be in a stage when you can see, you have to develop your sense of answering the questions. Okay. So even if there's some topic which is not directly tested, I will still try to give you some ideas so that it helps you connect the dots. Okay. But yeah, in other laws, so remember, I'm not talking about contract, agency, business firm, but there's an area called miscellaneous laws that I feel Becker is not included it in as much detail as others have done it. So I will try to give you a little bit more there. Okay.
Okay, got it.
But what we'll do in the class will be good enough. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else, any other question as far as content or the exam model or the change in syllabus? Okay, for more of this, I have uploaded this on the portal. I'll show you where it is. And I have kind of annotated it really well. Okay, so those of you who are following UWorld has exactly taken the hierarchy or the chronology of what AICP has given you. And if you look at the study material, they will actually tell you, okay, this is the topic. And in this topic, this is the base level skill that you have to talk about. So it will tell you exactly which area, which skill level is important. Now, see, analysis is the highest level that is tested in regulation. And my suggestion is please follow this really well. Any of the areas where they have ticked on analysis, that is one of the prospective areas in which the simulation can come. And you should be very alert about it. And you should know that you have to deal with it conceptually. Don't mug that. Okay. So if you look at this, there's not much change in the business laws, right? Except for this. Can you see this? So now see, if you compare this with what was there earlier, you will see they've come up with so many laws here, like, anti-bribery, health plans was there, but not in that much of details, worker class. So a lot of these laws are newer laws, which were not there earlier. Can you see this? Qualified health plans, worker classification, which also increased the skill level. So there, I feel there is a high enough chance that this year we can expect a sim in this area. So just be careful about it. And the best part is what you're going to be tested is not a lot, but a lot of laws. And what you need to know is just the macro level. You don't have to dig very deep. Okay. So do that, because everywhere they tell you that in a specific scenario, that means they'll give you a test or they'll give you a scenario and then they will ask you which law is applicable and how. So just be a little alert. This is something that we need to be prepared. Okay. So this is one area that has undergone a change, which we need to do a little bit better. So that is theory. One second. Then we have, so this remains more or less the same. Business structure is easy. Yeah. So here, this is what I was saying. You will see in every topic, in every practical topic, they have introduced these two things. And if I read it properly, I'm going to read this once for you. See, what I'm saying is, let's say I'm testing you on depreciation. Okay, now depreciation is a little complicated in the US, guys, because uh, what they have done is there are a lot of stuff that you have to correlate and you've got to learn in depreciation. Okay, it's a little complicated area, but what they're trying to tell you is when they test you on depreciation, they're going to ask you to review a tax depreciation and amortization schedule for the current year and supporting documentation, including any source data used to create the schedule. That means they will not just ask you a question, what they were doing earlier. They will give you a scenario, just like in audit. They'll give you the working paper. So they'll give you the source docs. So, the best analogy is to think of is to think about in terms of audit, right? If I want to ask you whether a revenue has been overbooked or underbooked in accounts, how do I do that? I'll give you the figure from the income statement. I'll give you the figure from the balance sheet debtors. Then I'll give you the inventory records, probably the sale records or the bad debts calculation. And then from there, I'll ask you to infer and give me an idea of whether the income is overbooked or underbooked, right? So there's a full theory that goes behind it. But what we're testing you is not theory. What they're testing you is application of theory in real world. Now that's how they're going to test you in regulation as well. So let's say if they're giving you a depreciation. Earlier, they used to give you a question straight away. This is the question. Tell me what should be the answer. So you know the theory, you will apply it in the case, and you will get your answer. Instead of that, now they will actually give you, okay, this was the asset purchase. So they'll give you the asset, let's say the invoice. And then they'll give you some data about the time and the asset was put to use, probably. And then they'll give you some data about the amortization schedule. Okay, so it's the application of some basic concept rather than the direct testing of the concept. So that's the first thing you need to know. The second thing is, let's say I've already submitted the depreciation deduction according to my calculation, and then IRS comes up with a query. So how are you going to first understand the query and then respond to that query? See, review and resolve discrepancies identified by the automated diagnostics and validation checks. Now, see, this is something that we're going to do in the federal procedures. So this is a first level check, right? It's like saying I give you lots of schedules and I also have the external places from where the data would come in. And then there would be a computer system or the computer program that is going to test and give a let's say a scoring to different returns, and depending on the scoring, probably they're going to catch the returns for reviews. So here they're trying to tell you is I've submitted something, And the first level only computer came up with certain discrepancies, and the discrepancies are thrown at you. So typically we're going to refer to them as computer paragraph, right? Some paragraph numbers would be there, and some of those numbers have a particular meaning. So you're going to ensure that first understand what is it that the query is relating to, and then you're going to apply that theory and give the answer. So the concept doesn't change, but the way they're going to question you changes. So every practical area, this is something that you're going to be aware of. Okay, so this was for property taxation. Then even when you go to individual taxation, you will see everywhere they have put this for you. Form 1040 individual taxation, they're going to test you on your tax preparation and then on the review of the discrepancies caught by the IRS. But remember, the best part is it's only the first level discrepancy, right? So it cannot be very difficult, guys. It cannot be very difficult. Okay, all we need to do is we are going to do a lot more questions like this than the traditional ones. If you can do that, you do it 5, 6, 7 times, you will start understanding. Okay, and obviously, if somebody has been working, or even if you've been working in Indian taxation, it would really help because that thinking process would help actually. Okay, so every practical area they've come up with this review thing. So be careful about it. Okay, the rest remains the same. Yeah, one more thing, which is a big area, is they have introduced state and local taxes a little bit more than what they had done earlier. Okay, so this term from 2024 onwards, you would also be tested on. So, see, regulations typically federal tax, federal income tax. That means all the states put together, right? No, 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 no. Okay, yeah, I have put this. I have put the annotated one on UWorld, Karsten. Okay, it is there on the UWorld. But see, it's not something that I just want to show you in one class, and I want this because see, this is the communication that AI CPA has with all the prospective CPAs, which is you. So I want you to follow this on an ongoing basis. It's not a bad idea to take a printout of this, and every time you complete an area, just stick it there. So it's not a bad idea to follow this because every time you see an application level skill, your mind should be really alert. Okay, so this is a new thing. From this year onwards, they're going to test you on local and state tax issues also, which was not done till the last year. Okay. S corps more or less the same. Even earlier, we didn't have a lot of S corps. One second. Siddharth, we'll talk about it after the session. Okay, please, we'll talk about it after the session. Okay. Oh, partnership is a good job. The worst part of partnership was the tax basis, the risk basis, that thing gone. It's now a part of your TCP. It's no longer a part of your regulation syllabus. Okay. Tax exempt organizations considerably gone. It's just 2 or 3 pages, that to theory. So typically they just want you to concentrate on the base and make it really strong. And not just theoretically, but have some kind of a practical exposure so that if they give you certain documents in the real world, you should be able to relate to it. Okay. This is as far as the syllabus is concerned. Anybody, any questions till now? What are the first feelers? How many of you are scared? I should have completed it last year itself. How many of you are in that zone? At least it was easier. How many of you? Anybody in that zone? Yeah, Carsten, for you, definitely it's going to be a plus point. But yeah, but you cannot forget or you cannot undermine the importance of studies. But yes, somebody who's had years of experience in taxation, that person will definitely have an edge going ahead after 2024. Definitely will have an edge. So you're starting with the most comfortable subject and in the subject in which you have an edge compared to the others. Okay, but remember, hard work, there is no substitute to it. Okay, so we need to be, so you already have an advantage. Now you just need to ensure that this is the first paper, and if you crack it above 95, I'm pretty sure the others will fall in line. Yeah, I know that. No, time will say that's true, but still. Okay. Okay, now how to study. 3 things. Okay, 3 things. Very, very important, guys. Okay. The 2 which are core is concepts. Okay, some of you here are following Becker, some of you following UWorld or Wiley as earlier, some of you following Miles, some of you following Surgeon. You know, it's an incorrect thinking to know that material is everything, material is nothing. You just follow one material, guys. I don't want you to go to 10 materials. If you have just one content, any one base level content would do. But you do one question, but you think about that question. Just don't do it mechanically. You know, think about that question. And that's the reason my preference is always to take a big sim in a particular area, which will bring out all the facets of a question rather than typical facets only in one or two areas. So first thing is, it doesn't matter how many questions you're solving. What matters is how you are solving the questions that you're solving and how much conceptual clarity you're deriving from there. Okay, so one thing is, you do not need any more material than what there is already. Okay. Okay, this is very important. That this is slightly different from the way Indians are used to studying. We have a tendency of picking and choosing our content. You know, as a student, I had two very bad areas. One is I used to be totally driven by concepts. So if there were topics that I liked, I used to dig very deep in that. But if the topics that I didn't like, I used to simply ignore them. And probably some of it I'll do a day before the exam, whatever I'm able to retain and answer, that's it. But that's not the philosophy that's going to help you in CPA. So I know you're not going to believe it, but trust me, when I sat for my regulation paper, I did not do bankruptcy. I did not do secure transaction. I just couldn't understand it. I didn't do it. I just didn't have any intention of doing it. So what I did just before the exam, I read a bit of it and then I went, whatever came, I could answer, whatever, I don't know. But that was an area that I didn't know. The first time I did it properly was when I started teaching. That's not a good time. And that's not the good way of studying. You have to cover everything in CPA, guys, because the moment they test you on the MCQ base, anything can be asked. Okay, and the only challenge in regulation is it most of you do not have a prior knowledge. You don't have a prior base to fall back to when regulation is concerned. And that's the reason your preparation and the way you're preparing makes huge difference. So first understand you're not leaving anything. You're not doing anything in a not so good way. You cannot do it. 100%. So theory, 50% is theory, right? So that your aim should be that I have to crack 100 out of 100 in theory. And for practical, again you will see a lot. I have that, I still do it, even as a person who's running my own business. I still make my own personal SWOT analysis. I fix my targets every 6 months. I revisit it. I'm now teaching my son to do it. But I'm honestly telling you, it's not a bad idea to make your personal SWOT analysis every 6 months. For you guys, if I were you, I would be making it for every exam that I'm sitting. Look at the strengths that you have in every topic. Look at the weaknesses, because at the end of the day, you have to play by your strengths. So it should not be that you're taking so much of time covering your weaknesses that your weaknesses also don't become strength and your strengths also don't give you marks. Don't do that. If you feel theory is your strength, cover your theory really well, and then we'll do practical, and slowly we'll try to cover the areas from weakness and push it on to the strengths. Okay. For opportunities, again, external factors, I'm not going to detail much, but yeah, there are a couple of things that's important for us. Threats, see, there are a lot of unknown. The uncertainty in the paper is really a lot. Okay. So what you need to do, please be very mindful of AI CPA released sample papers. So AICPA is going to release sample papers now more than earlier because it's a new syllabus. You should be very, very careful and you should be doing those sample papers that AICPA is coming new with. Okay. Now, a couple of things. I know you guys must be aware of it, but technically, legally, you should not share. You don't put the questions that came in the exam anywhere in a public forum which can be accessible by people. Why? Because when you become CPAs, you are swearing that you're going to keep the CPA examination completely out of public domain. So please do not speak to somebody over the phone if you have to, but do not put anything on pen and paper. You cannot do that. Okay, so remember that. The first two is, so this is something that we are going to aspire to have as much in the class as possible. I am going to do sims. And I'm going to do some MCQs, which are some of the MCQs may be a little more than what your content providers is giving you, so that you get a clarity, a more conceptual clarity. Coverage is something that you've got to take care of. Okay, this is the most important ingredient. Okay, and how are we going to address it? Next 3 weeks, what I want you to do is this. Apart from the time that you're going to spend with me in the sessions, that means 6 hours, forget it. That's passive learning. Way back at your home. So let's say I cover 3 areas, 3 different sections in the next 3. So tomorrow, day after, and on Wednesday, I'm going to cover 3 different topics, right? Then you go back home. I don't know how you're going to do it, whether you want to go through your material again, whether you want to go. So my suggestion is what I'm going to give you is pretty exhaustive. Do that once, just go through the PPT and then go and do your MCQs in that area. Once you do the MCQs, if you're able to crack all the MCQs, then you know you've understood the concept, right? Now, whether you want to do some more lectures, whether you want to read something more, that is extra, that is up to you. But in my next session, when you come, I would expect you to complete all the MCQs in that area. Sims, typically, I would say, see, Sims are something which are not too much available in any content provider. So for Sims, my suggestion is treat it as something which is rare. Um, most of the sims that you're going to see in the topics, we would be covering it in the classes. So your mid-section test becomes very important. Your blind test becomes very important. So my suggestion is when you complete one full area, after that, sit down and do all the sims, keeping the time clock on. And sims, should you be able to understand your consistency, your coverage, everything through the sims. So mark your time and mark your accuracy. Don't look at the answers in the sims. So MCQs, treat it as incremental learning platform. See, I cannot give you every single line of what there is, but if you understand the basic things, some of the extra small stuff that we don't cover, you can do it via the MCQs. So your deliverable should be 100% of MCQs done. And when I complete a particular area, let's say for Becker, if I complete module 1 completely, I want you guys to look and sit for all these sims in that area. Uh, say, let's say module 1, module 2 in Becker done, sit for your sectional tests, your mid test. For people in UWorld, I am going to give you a weekly test. Every week for the next 30 weeks, I'm going to give you a cumulative weekly test. So week 1, I'm going to give you a test. Week 2, I'm going to give you a cumulative test of week 1 and week 2. If you guys are doing that, I am pretty sure you'll be in a very comfortable zone at the end of 30 weeks. Okay, and I'll give you mid-section test. Let's say when we complete individual taxation, I'll give you a mid-section test. When we complete entity taxation, I'll give you a mid. But all the tests are going to be like cumulative. Okay, you spend a lot of time understanding the concepts in regulation. You should not leave it. Keep on revising, because once you've spent 20 hours doing a particular area, it's not very difficult to revise it. Okay, uh, regulation is one area where making small handwritten notes might help you, especially in something like individual taxation. There's so many things to remember. I depend a lot on acronyms, especially in the individual taxation, and I think it's a good idea to make the acronyms and put something in them. Okay, so what are we aiming at? For the first 3 weeks, I want you to just have a time start, time end, time start, time end. Just observe how much time you are taking to complete all the MCQs and sims at your area. Okay, so if I have 6 hours of class, I need a time that you need to maintain. In 3 weeks' time, you will start understanding that in 6 hours, whatever I'm teaching you, how many hours you need on a weekly basis to cover it. Okay, I'll release a test every Saturday, I think. So every Sunday, if it's possible, sit down and take that test. Okay, so if you can do that for 3 weeks, just keep your time. How much time you're taking to cover up the MCQs and whatever you want to do at your end, so that you know, yes, this area is done. Mark that time. Just take time in, time out, time in, time out. Once in 3 weeks' time, you'll get your answer. In a week, I need 18 hours. In a week, I need 20 hours. Then you just need to make a steady routine. Weekdays, how many hours? Weekend, how many hours? And then, like a clock, just sit down and read during that time. So if you can get to that routine in 3 weeks' time, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to crack this. Yeah, everybody. Jasmine. No, the test will not be applicable for Becker students. Jasmine, okay?
Okay.
Because I'm not uploading the test on my website. I'm taking the test on the UWorld website. Okay.
Okay.
Test will not be applicable for you. So, but see, in Becker, you can make your own test, right, Jasmine?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I would expect you is make a cumulative test. So every week, I want you to make a cumulative test for whatever we are covering, make a cumulative. So I'll tell you, for Becker students, no, what I do is after the session, I don't currently have a Becker login. I'll ask the student to give me or share the login once. I will teach you how to use that interface well. You know, so there's something called you can create a test out of customized test, and then there are standardized tests, right, Jasmine?
Yeah. Yeah. I have used them.
Yeah. So what I want you to do is this: you first run a you first run a standardized test every week. So
Okay.
how many, I don't know, 35, 36, whatever number of questions you have for one test. Let's just make a standard test for that. And then wherever you see that there are errors that you're making, for those areas, go and run a random test. Okay, so customize random. When you do that, you will really understand where is it that you're making a mistake, and then you go back and do all the questions in that area. Have you
Got
understood?
it. Yeah. Got it.
Every Saturday, for you guys, for people who are not on the UWorld, I would want you to make your own test so make one particular day of the week where you're going to make that test and run it and sit it by the clock. So I don't want more than 45 minutes to an hour, guys. But give that, it will make a huge difference, and make it a cumulative test. Okay? So what I want you to do is, I want you to just mark your time for the first 3 weeks. Just mark your time. And after 3 weeks, I would want you will get an idea. On a weekly basis, make your routine. And what you're going to do for the first 3 weeks is going to yield you result in the next 30 weeks. Okay. So please, this is important. Okay. If it's not important, I would not have told you to do that. Just in a paper, do a time in, time out. You will exactly know you're taking on an average how many hours in a week. And then you just need to make a steady routine, and then it becomes a part of your system. Okay. Keep your weekends half weekend off, guys. Do not. So I have experienced students experiencing burnout. I have seen people complaining of complete disorientation after, let's say, 6 months of studies. I have people having panic attacks also. I've had students who's ultimately, see, at the end of the day, this is just a paper. You have to understand, at the max what will happen, we will lose some money and we will come back. But understand that whatever you do, if you're freaking out, it is going to make the situation worse rather than making it better. Okay, so the more methodically you deal with it, chances are that your success will be really good. Okay, so have a routine which, so if you're a married person, if you have children, have a routine which entails you to spend half a day over the, so that's the reason why we have weekday classes, because I don't want you to be passively learning over the weekend. So weekend should be the time of deep learning, at least 4 to 5 hours each day of the weekend. If you can give, set up a pace for the next week coming in, and if you can do that consistently for 3 weeks, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to do it for 30 weeks. Okay. Okay, so how I want you to study, I have given you this schedule. uh, I think it's a pretty manageable schedule, and I think you can do it. It's not something which is very difficult. Now, see, this that I have shown you here is the tentative dates that we would be taking to complete your syllabus. And if I'll show you, but I have already uploaded the schedule on the LMS, right? So if I look at the typical areas that have been tested, I have shown you in what order I'm going to be taking those sessions in the class. And what I have given you is the weekly. And so I am going to divide this entire thing into weeks. Okay. So tentatively by 10th of April, I will be completing my entire syllabus. And ideally after the first 3 weeks, by which time you really know how many hours you're taking on a weekly basis, I would want you to start your revision. Okay. I'll make you understand what I feel is the correct way of revising. But ideally, I would want you after 3 weeks. So 3 weeks, mark your time really well. After 3 weeks, you should exactly know that on a weekly basis how many hours you need to master, and just catch up with the class. Okay. After that, after the third week, I want your parallel revision to start. That means after the third week, I would want you to put in some 1.5 to 2 hours every week for revising whatever you've done. So guys, remember, when you spend around 30 hours doing one area, Revising it should not take you more than 2 hours, right? But if you do it then and then and don't leave it, chances are that you're going to reduce this time. Say complete practical, you will be in a position to complete it at your end, get into constant revision, and then just take theory incrementally and sit for the paper, right? So if you're doing incremental studies, I'm pretty sure that when I complete the syllabus in April 10th, another 2 weeks, you should be in a position to write your papers. Okay, so I give you another 1 week's time. You should definitely be in a position to write your papers then. Okay, now these are the mid-sectional exams. For UWorld guys, I'm going to give you this exam. For people who are not in UWorld, whichever material you're following, you will make your own exam. Okay, now see, in most cases, they're going to give you something called customized and standardized test. Customized typically will take questions from the areas where you had made mistakes before. So if you run a customized test, you will be able to understand, okay, this was my weak area, I will solve. So you run a customized test to understand, okay, these were the weak areas. But once you understand what your weak areas are, go back to standard test and do as many questions as you can in that time. You will see that slowly your concepts will get strengthened. So I don't want you to do any more material than whatever material you're following. But your aim should be that you should be able to identify where are you conceptually weak. If you make an error, don't call it a careless or a silly mistake, because there are no silly mistakes. There is somewhere or the other you're making a mistake. Either you're jumping a question, or you're thinking way ahead of what the question is asking you, probably. So some of this we can understand when you're answering questions in the class. So that's the reason I would appreciate all of you to participate and take, you know, put yourself and then answer the class questions. Because if you can do that, I also get an idea of where is it that your thinking process is going wrong. Okay. So tentatively, you should be running 5 sectional tests. And where am I picking up the number 5? These are the 5 areas that will be tested in your exam. So pick up 5 sectional tests. Uh, my suggestion is make it cumulative. That means when you do individual, you test yourself after 3 weeks. When you take entity, you test yourself on 1 and 2. So make it cumulative sectional tests. Okay. Now this is the third revision. Okay. Now what do you mean by first revision, second revision? I will explain you. I'll explain you in great details of how I want you to mark your questions and then how I want you to run and rerun those questions. But remember, sometime over the weekend or the weekday, as you are placed, you will have to take time out for revising on a continual basis. If you can do that, I'm pretty sure that your target should be after I complete my syllabus within 2 weeks, you are 100% prepared to write your papers. Okay. Uh, Comprehensive exams, my suggestion is you can take two. I have seen people freaking out in the comprehensive exams because they feel, oh, my marks not so great. I am not looking for your marks in the comprehensive exam. What I'm looking at is, when you sit for your comprehensive exam, you make some obvious mistakes which you will not do in your final paper. So I'm not going to judge you by what is your marks in your comprehensive exam, and I would suggest that your aim should also not be like that. It should not be that, oh, I'm getting 75, I'm going to flunk in the paper. No, you would not. The only reason I definitely would want you to take one review exam at least 2 weeks before your final paper. Because if your marks are not that great, you have time to absorb that shock, right? So the only reason I want you to take a full exam is because I want you to understand some obvious time management errors, which if you take a comprehensive exam, that helps you to avoid it in the final exam. Okay, otherwise the marks are not relevant, and I don't think that should be in any way used to determine how much you're going to get in your final score. Okay, but remember, 2 weeks to your exam, don't write any comprehensive papers. Okay, so how many marks I want you to set your questions? Exactly what's written in your AICPA. So 1 second. If I look at this again, your AICPA had 1 second. How many testlets? Yeah. So 5 areas, and we did this. Oh, I think they did it in the beginning. Yes. Okay. This. See, In red, you have 4 hours paper. You have 72 questions. That means you will have 2 testlets of 36 questions each. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to make your MCQ testlets 36 questions. Try to crack it in not more than 45 minutes, not more than that. So every week, if you can take 1 or 2 sims, not more than that, 1 or 2 sims and 1 testlet of 36 questions each. Okay. And slowly, I don't want you to so initially, even if it takes a little bit more time, but if when you're setting a paper, make it 45 minutes as a deadline. I know it's a little far-fetched, but if you can do that for 30 weeks, you would be in a very good shape to write your papers. Okay. So what I want you to do is every weekend, cumulatively, I want you to take 1 test of 36 MCQs and 2 sims on a cumulative basis. Okay. For Becker students, it's very important because I think in some of those tests, they can throw up new questions. Okay. For UWorld students, again, a lot of those traditional areas, UWorld has a very good repertoire of questions. Now, the problem is the newer type of questions are not much in any of the content providers because AICPA has not released those questions as yet. A lot of it has not been released. So, most of the newer questions I feel would be similar in most content providers. But yeah, if there's something that I feel is really relevant, I'm going to use it in my classes as well. Okay. Okay, so how do I want you guys to study? Okay, so in my mind, I'm expecting you guys to write your papers latest by mid of May, not beyond that. Because if you're stretching it beyond that, I don't think you're making the most of the time that you do. See, guys, remember the biggest constraint right now is time, nothing else. So don't waste your time, trying to get into the mode. No, you are into the mode. From tomorrow, we are starting. 3 weeks, if you're able to really give, do justice to this time that you're spending with me, I am 100% sure you'll be able to write your papers by the end of April. Okay? Okay. Now, how do I want you to prepare? Okay. Now, see, I have already given you the access to the Pixalearn app. Sorry, 1 second. So, this is the Pixalearn LMS, right? Anybody here who's still not been able to log into the Pixalearn LMS? Anybody here? Please raise your hand, write in the chat panel. Is anybody here who's still not been able to log in to the Pixalearn LMS? Anybody? Okay. Now see, as I told you, I have already uploaded the schedule and okay, the login hasn't happened. I have already uploaded the schedule and every week I'm going to update it with the current status. Okay, sometimes some questions might take a little bit more time. Oh, 1 second, guys. Okay. So I have already uploaded the schedule for you guys. And so every week I'll just make changes in it. I'll update it with the status of what has been done. So what my suggestion is, so for those of you who are not with UWorld, or even if you're with UWorld, because I am not following the hierarchy of AICP, I'm following the hierarchy of concepts, okay? Every class, whatever we are doing, I have given you reference to the respective content that you have to follow. Okay. Now, this is tentative. This is not really fine-tuned because we'll do it as and when the course is built. So my suggestion is this should give you a fair enough idea of what we are doing and what part of the MCQs you've got to do it at your end. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, after the session is done, all that I want from you is to go back home and revisit the MCQ, revisit the concepts once. So I'll be uploading. So this PPT that I've just used in the session, I'm going to upload it on your LMS tomorrow. Okay, so the PPT along with the class recording would go and get updated on the LMS maximum within 24 hours to 27, 28 hours. Okay, not more than that, right? Within a day, I'll try to do it. So what I want you to do is just after you've attended the entire class, the PPTs become really simple to identify. It's already there. Just go through it once and then sit and work out all the MCQs in your database. Whether you're reading the book, when you're reading any other lectures, whether you're listening to anything else, that is additional. That is your take. But as far as I'm concerned, my expectation is that you should be through with the MCQs. Now, the moment you're through with that, the concept is completely driven home. Okay. Okay, one more thing I want you to understand is whether you've got a question right or wrong, please go through all the answer choices. Now, see, you will see a typical pattern coming up. In the MCQs, out of 4 choices, 2 you would be able to negate. 2 out of 4, you can easily say this is not relevant, this is not relevant. And then the 2 further options will remain. Out of those, you have to eliminate the third choice and let the fourth choice come up as a correct answer. So we are not choosing the right answers. We are eliminating the wrong answers. So initially, when you're solving the MCQ, please read the rationale behind every single answer choice, whether you're getting it correct or wrong. Okay. And after that, I want you to flag or mark your questions. In every content provider, there is an option to flag the questions that you want to revisit. Now, a lot of you, I have seen, many of you, if not all, I have seen people who are not using this when you see. Remember, the first time you're doing a question, that is a very important time because that's the time when you're determining what are the questions that you would want to revisit. Even if you want to do all the questions in the next attempt, I would still suggest spare some time and mark your questions because you will save your time. How will you save your time? Let's say I am giving you, let's say you are taking 24 hours to cover one module. Okay, so when I say 24 hours, a major chunk of that time will go in solving the MCQs and the sims. So MCQs will take up a lot of your time. So I want you, so in the in the second revision, you should not spend more than 10 hours revising the the module. And in the last revision, you should not spend more than 4 hours revising the module for the third time. So I need 3 revision. In every revision, I want the questions to go half and half, a little bit even more than half, right? So when you mark the questions, those should not be marked on the basis of what you're getting correct or wrong. It should be marked on the basis of the, so it's like this, we do sampling in audit, right? So basically I'm asking you to choose a sample which will be representative of the population, irrespective of whether you're getting it correct or wrong. So if there are 100 questions in a particular topic, how can I choose 40 and probably not more than 40, definitely not more than 40, not more than 35 to 40 questions, so that when I solve those 40 questions, I will be able to get the crux of the entire 100. That should be an attempt when you are marking the questions. Okay, read all the answer choices, mark the good questions which should be reflective of the population. Okay, and then after you've done a full topic, that's the time when I want you to go and read and do the sims. And when you're doing the sims, remember sims are a rarity because there are not many sims floating around. So don't look at the sim halfway through and just look at the answer. Don't do that. Mark your time, mark your accuracy. Everything in the sim should all be like testing. Okay. Most of the average sims we would be covering in the class. That's the reason why your incremental test becomes very important. When you're devising your own tests, that's the time sometimes it throw you some new sims. Okay, so sims should be tested. Okay, do not use it as an incremental learning platform. Okay, if you have a query, guys, there's a WhatsApp group. Please take the question and the answers, screenshot and post it on the group. Since there are people following different content, please put in the snapshot of not just the question but even the answers so that everybody can attempt it. Okay, I am also in that group in case if I see nobody else is able to answer, because see, when you share questions, chances are that all of you will get your levels elevated. Okay, so please share the question and the answer on the WhatsApp. Okay, as I told you, you need to take weekly tests. For UWorld, I'm going to set the test. For the others, you're going to set your own tests and take sectional tests after we've completed one full section. So 5 sectional tests, 30 weekly tests, and 2 mid-session exams. If 2 final review exams. If you can do that, you're in a very good zone. Okay. So in my suggestion, we need 3 revisions. My take on the exam is I'm spending a lot of my time, a lot of my money, and I'm not going to rewrite these papers ever again. So when you go, you should be over prepared rather than under prepared. So don't think that what you, so it's like a CAT exam, guys. Okay. Just it will never happen in a way that you're randomly marking the questions and it will be coming right. It will never happen. If you're not scoring properly in your in your dummy exams, in your mock exams, that is reflective of what you're going to get in your final exams as well. Okay. So 3 revisions. Very importantly is, I am going to talk about it on a conceptual basis, but I can't layer up the concepts if you guys are not clear with your concepts. Okay. So, and the way we're going to deal with it is when we read a particular concept in the class, next time I'm not going to detail that concept again. I'm going to just give you the delta or the incremental. So if your base is poor, you can't pile up anything else on the base. Okay. In case if you miss a particular session, some of you have offices in the morning. Many of you will have situations where you would not be able to attend all the classes. It's okay. The lectures will be uploaded by the end of the day. Please follow it up at your end and then come for the next class. Okay. Okay. Again, please do not run for 50 modules. It's not about how much you're working. It's about how smart, how much you're able to retain, how much are you able to connect the dots. That's important. Okay. Again, in my opinion, these papers are not very difficult papers to crack. All it needs is some kind of a disciplined study. If you're able to crack the optimum time management, how many hours you need on a weekly basis, you can just put it, put yourself in an auto mode so that, every week. And, that's going to just imagine. I'm not asking you to think beyond a week. I'm just asking you to think of 1 week and stick to your schedule for 1 week. That's it. So we are going to bring 30 into just 30 sessions of 1 week each. So all that you have to think is 1 week, I am doing what I have to do. That's it. Okay, another thing, very, very importantly, see the best part about the classes that we're having currently is most of you. So there are some 24, 25 students who have registered for this class. Many of them may not attend a class like that, but they will be studying and they will be sitting for the paper. So what I am aiming at is not just to take a random class. The reason why we are having this model of the class is because I want you guys to clear your papers. Get out of this mode. The worst that happens is, you're stuck in this mode. So every Saturday, Sunday is doomed till the time you've not cleared your paper. Get over, get done with this, and get done. Okay, so I've had, last year we started Pixalearn. Whoever sat for their papers, many of them have cleared the papers. And many of them were people who were struggling to clear the papers, okay, earlier. So my thing is you have a batch where nearly 95% of the people are going to write their papers in the end of April, first week of May. Utilize that batch. Okay, I still remember in the last, BEC session where people were struggling to clear the paper, there was a group in which one had a lot of good knowledge about IT. There was another one who was very hardworking and would probably take certain areas of BC really well. So what we did is we put those people together, we made a group, they had their Zoom sessions and they could help each other. So don't be shy. Ask. I think Alok is not there in the session today, but nobody is judging you. Trust me, nobody judges you anywhere. In the sessions, don't wait who is answering, whether my question is wrong. It's not relevant. What is important is we are going to see the end result. If you're able to clear your papers on time, that's it. That's what we want. Okay. So make use of this network. Okay. Okay. Very common mistakes that I've seen people making. Please don't do that, right? So those of you who have just registered themselves for the course, if your eligibility, NTS, scheduling, all of this is priority. Without this, you can't sit for the paper. Don't delay. Okay, don't wait for the optimum time. See, the idea should be the moment the ball is in your court, throw it. It should not take, so you should not look back and say, see, I could not sit for the paper because I couldn't study properly. No, your eligibility is your headache. If this is not done, nothing else works. See, last year, I think Money is in the session, right? Money is there, right? Money could not sit for his
Yes, ma'am.
papers because he couldn't have the eligibility. Yes, Money?
Yes, ma'am. Now I got it.
Yeah, and same, I remember there was another student, she was working so hard with me. and then her eligibility didn't work out because some or the other reason. So be very careful about the papers that have to go. Do not delay at your end. That's the first thing. Okay, second, many people have this tendency. They do all the MCQs and then they leave all the sims. Remember, if you're leaving the sims, you're leaving 50% of your paper. And see, it's just like training your mind. Training your mind to solve the MCQs, you have to train your mind to solve the sims as well. Okay. Please do not underestimate the power of marking your sims. And this is the only time when you're going to start it with me that you get 100% of the chance to choose the questions that you would want to revisit. Even if you feel you want to do 100% of the questions, please mark your MCQs, because otherwise you will not be able to reduce the time of your revision. In the entire CPA paper, the only constraint is time, guys, because most of you are working professionals. We are no longer in a zone where our parents are coming and giving us coffee and tea and stuff. We are no longer seekers. We are all providers in our respective domains, and both in the workplace as well as at home. Okay, so the most important thing is what, and there will be time when your work will have to take precedence and the studies would take a back seat. It's okay, that's going to happen. What you have to do is whatever time you have, do not waste that time. Okay, because time is the only constraint, that the only bottleneck is time. Okay, again, I have seen a lot of people doing this. Don't do this, guys. Trust the material that you are with. Just trust that and do only that. Do not go to 10 places. The only other thing that I want you to do is have a nap or have a tab on the AICPA released papers. Do that whenever that is released. Beyond that, nothing else. One question, you think a lot on that question rather than thinking of solving 10 questions from 10 different areas. You don't need that. Okay. Again, as I told you, AICPA release sample papers are very, very important. Okay. And especially this year because the pattern of questions are changing. Okay, don't do this. I've seen a lot of people making this mistake. They write their papers 3 days before the exam and then they completely freak out. I got a 59, I got a 86, I got a 25. What do I do? You don't do anything. You just made a wrong mistake of writing your papers close to exam date. Jai Shankar is here in the class. Jai Shankar, don't do this next time. You've done
Yes,
it once, right?
yeah.
Don't do it again. Okay, it will never give you any kind of happiness. The risk is way more than the return. Don't make that mistake. Okay, 2 weeks before the paper, no solving of paper, no taking any kind of a mock exam or any kind of a literal, nothing I want you to do, because solving this paper is like giving you all the tools. Ultimately, you sit in the examination hall and then you give your 100%. So don't carry any baggage in the examination hall with you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, I will first just take you through the Pixalearn LMS. Now, see, we haven't built up the Reg LMS because we are going to do it as and when we are studying. But I'll show you one of the LMSs that we had just completed, which was audit, right? And this is how the regulation LMS will also pick up, right? So I'm just showing you the methodology. So see, let's say we have the first session, okay? After the class, the PPT that was used in the class along with the recording would be uploaded on the LMS. After that, all that I want you to do is go back home, read that PPT if you want to, work out all this MCQs in that area. Once you complete 2-3 related topics, then come and sit and do the sims. It is as simple as that. Do you want to read the material before looking at the questions? See, you could do that, but my suggestion is don't do that. Why? Because see, I am making a lot of effort to ensure that what I'm giving you is 100%. But when you do that, and if you're able to solve all the MCQs, now when you go back and read the law, your mind will pick up the right words, the keywords. In that entire data, you would know what to emphasize and what not to emphasize on, right? Because unless and until you don't have that seal, when you don't have the MCQs, you feel everything is very important. No, everything is not that important. Okay, and there's a huge history of the MCQs that have been tested. Do the MCQs and then go back and read the material in case if you want to read your material, because by that time you would have known the concept, you would know what is tested on an ordinary basis and what emphasis you've got to place on different topics also. Okay, so if you want to read, you wrap it up in the fag end, not in the beginning, because even if you do it in the beginning, you'll realize you'll have to repeat it after the MCQs, so save time there. Do you have to go and read or listen to the lectures provided by national instructors? My suggestion is, if you have to do that, do it on the topics that you find struggling. If you've still had a question in a topic that we've covered in the class, you're not very happy, that's the only time when I want you to refer to any other lecture. Before that, if you're comfortable with whatever is being taught, you're able to manage the MCQs, I think that's good enough. You don't need to go beyond it. Okay. Anybody, any questions? How many of you are in the zone that all of this is like gyan? I don't know. All of this is just pure gyan. I don't think this is ever going to work out. See, I know this is a little early to say, but I'm pretty sure. But once you start the class, I think within the next 3 weeks, work out a routine for yourself. Where to study, how much to study, how to study. Those answers should be solved in the first 3 weeks. Okay. So every topic that we're going to have, I'm going to give you all the sims. So sims, how are we going to do? We are going to do it through the PPTs only. I'm going to give you the question in the PPT. We're going to discuss it in the class. You are the guys who would be taking the sim for us. Okay. So every question that will be discussed, the entire PPT will be uploaded and the recording. After that, you just need to follow it at your end. For people of you, actually, for you, any question about the Pixalearn? It's a simple LMS, guys. I've kept it really simple so that you don't have to worry about the interface and how to use this interface. Any questions? Anybody about the Pixalearn LMS? Anybody who's having, in case if you're not able to access the course or anything, let me know. We'll just work it out. Okay. Please write your password somewhere and keep it, because that password is important. I don't have access to it. Once you know the password, then all that I can do is I can reset the password for you, nothing else. Okay. Anybody, any questions? Okay, for those of you following UWorld,
Ma'am, tomorrow we have classes.
yeah, we're going to have classes from tomorrow.
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the 3 days we're going to have class.
Thank you.
Yeah. 1 second. This is the UWorld interface. For those of you who need to have UWorld, is Lakshmi there in the class? No, I think her time zones are different. But see, guys, first you have to go and launch the course. If the course is not launched, you will not be able to log into the interface. So everybody has been given access for the 3 core subjects now. For the discipline subject, you will make a choice, I think another 2-3 months down the line. Once you're very clear of what discipline subject you're going to follow, you're going to ask them to activate that for you. So I need to first launch the course. Jay Shankar, I'm using your profile because it's a student profile. I don't get to see that profile. Okay, you can change the password after this.
No,
So I go
I
to
don't
the
want. I
course.
don't want.
No, it's up to you. But I'm just saying I had to use it because I don't have that interface at mine. I just have the faculty interface. Okay. So you launch the course first. If you do not launch the course will not reflect. Once you see the course, if you go to the lectures, you will have a full course whereby the topics are given. With every topic, the lectures are there. Wherever there's an MCQ, the MCQs are there. Wherever there's TBS, the TBS is there. There is an e-textbook that is included. Now, e-textbook is very important. Why I'll tell you, because you can search in the e-topic. Yeah, so wherever you are in the ebook, 1 second. Wherever you're in the ebook, you can search. So let's say I'm going to talk about qualified business deduction. Let's just say QBI. It'll show you which page it is coming. Qualified QBI, business income deduction. Okay. Qualified. Yeah. Is it not showing here? Okay. Hey, what's happening? 1 second. Oh, qualifying. Okay. What's happening? 1 second. Qualifying. I don't know what's happening. It's not picking up the keywords. Okay, it would, guys. Okay, I think It won't pick up the keywords from here, okay? Sometimes when you're lost about what that area is and where you have to read about it, you can use it. Okay, it's searching the index. You've got to put it here, right? Yeah, so it's going to show you where. So I'm sorry, I was searching the index and that's why it's not showing. It will tell you where is it, which material is it, and which are the areas where all of these topics would be found. So that's a very good thing where you can use the e-textbook. When you want to create your own test bank, you can use a create test option. That will help you, that you can, you can choose the topics that you want to create a test on. You can choose how many questions you want, and you can make your own self-study course here. Okay, one very good thing about UWorld is, now this is a new login, so I cannot show it to you, but when you submit your papers or even when you submit your questions, they will map you along with the national performance. So you will know vis-a-vis the others. Is our LMS redirect? I couldn't understand the question, Suchi Shubranath. The Pixalearn LMS is separate. The UWorld LMS is separate. But what you have here is a faculty access. So can you see here, when you click here, you will have your My Classes, and here the questions that I set for you will all be uploaded here. Okay. So you can choose which topic, and then there will be a class assignment that I will set for you and you will have to solve it. I will update. So these are the auto assignments that have been put into the system, but I will make those tests for you and I will let you know in the WhatsApp group what is the name of the test. Every week I would want you to do that test. Okay. So remember, first launch the course. There are two platforms here. This is the self-study platform and this is the faculty-led platform. When I give you the test, it will show in the faculty. So like this is one of the tests. If you want, you can start the test here. So just like that, there would be tests that I will make and you will have to appear for those tests. So we'll have 30 tests for 30 different weeks. There will be 5 sectional tests and 2 full review exams. Okay. Now tell me, anybody any questions? Anybody any questions? Anybody?
Hello, ma'am. This is Siddharth. Ma'am,
Yeah, Siddharth.
yeah, just wanted to ask, like, for some of the candidates, the examination schedule might be different than, what you suggested. So how those candidates should adjust their schedules?
So are you trying to say that you want to write your papers before April? Is that what you're trying to ask me?
Yes. March
Yes,
21.
Yeah, so if you want to write your papers in March, Siddharth, my suggestion is that you should start preparing the theory on your own. You are with Becker, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So start doing the contract, sale of goods, start doing the theory on your own. Theory is not very difficult. Because see, I have given you the schedule, right? I'm going to follow that schedule. So ideally, my suggestion is if you want to do something on your own, do the theory, don't do the practical. Practical, you do it with me.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay.
Sure.
So the fag end, whatever topics you feel that you will be missing out and things that you want to expedite, you do that before.